Hello, my name is Cheryl Blanchard. I'm the Regional Director for Alzheimer's Tennessee here in the Middle Tennessee region, and we're presenting this video to you as part of the Mid-South Project ECHO. Today we're going to be talking about self-care for the professional caregiver. We've talked some in previous sessions about burnout and why burnout happens, and this session is going to be all about giving you some tips and tricks that you can apply to your life to help avoid that burnout by practicing good self-care. So one thing to think about is every day when you go to work, there's going to be a new set of challenges. If you're taking care of Mrs. Jones, yesterday she might have been pleasant and wonderful and everything went smoothly. And today, maybe she didn't get a good night's sleep or she's not feeling well and it's going to be a lot more difficult. So one thing that's really important to note is each day when you wake up, it's a new day. May not be like yesterday, maybe better, maybe worse, but I am up for the challenge. So just be prepared for each day to go a little bit differently than the day before. When you think about your work and at the end of the day, you might feel really fulfilled. You might feel like you're really making a difference in these people's lives or in their families' lives. You might feel happy. You might feel like there's really nothing you'd rather do. I love my job, caring for people with dementia. This is great, and I just can't imagine doing anything else. Or you might have those days where your feelings are hurt. We know that sometimes people with dementia will say things that are hurtful and hateful. We know they don't really understand them, but they still hurt our feelings. You might be upset at the end of the day because you feel like the whole day you just made mistake after mistake. You might be really confused and thinking about those expectations that I thought this was going to be like hanging out with grandma and grandpa. This is a lot harder than I thought. I can't seem to do anything right. You might be angry. Sometimes days are just going to feel unfair and it's going to feel like everything is being dumped on you and you're supposed to handle it all. So that can make you feel angry and even very frustrated. I tried so hard today to get this done and it just didn't work. And that can lead to feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes you might feel like that resident actually hates you, which is typically not true, but it certainly can feel that way on some days. And then you might even feel like I made a big mistake. What was I thinking coming to work here? What have I done? And all of those feelings can lead to something we call stress. Now, for some reason, stress in the United States is treated as a dirty word. We can't admit that we're stressed. We never want to admit to anybody that we're overwhelmed. But it's really important to recognize stress, not only in yourself, but in your family and also in the families of the residents that we're caring for. So, who, me stressed? I'm not stressed. I never get stressed. But do you sometimes get short-tempered? Do you find that sometimes maybe you're a little bit quick-tempered when somebody does something that irritates you? Or how about, do you just not feel like hanging out with your friends anymore? Maybe everybody likes to go out and eat dinner after work on Friday night. Yeah, I don't want to, I'm not interested. Social withdrawal, maybe not hanging out with friends or visiting as much as you used to. Do you ever feel anxious? Do you have that feeling, maybe a heaviness in your chest or a feeling that something's not right or something's going to go wrong? Are you absolutely exhausted? Find it difficult to get out of bed and just making it through the day? It takes every ounce of energy that you have. And maybe part of that exhaustion is because you have a hard time falling asleep at night. Maybe you lay in bed and things are just running through your head and you're thinking about the million and one things you've got to do tomorrow. Or maybe you're thinking about that thing that happened at work today that was so upsetting to you. And that can create sleeplessness. Are you more irritable than you normally are? Do you find yourself crying a lot easier than you normally would? All of those things are signs and symptoms of stress. And as I said, not only in you, but in our family and in the families of the people that we're caring for. So if you can't say, I'm stressed, can you say, wow, I'm feeling really anxious, or wow, I'm really exhausted? And can you look at those things and see what you might be able to do about it? This one is one that you'll hear a lot of family members say. They'll say to me, wow, this must be contagious because I can't remember a thing. I am so forgetful now. And I just let them know, that's not dementia, that's stress. You are overwhelmed, you're stressed, the brain can only handle so much at one time. So if you notice that you just can't concentrate, if you're reading a book and get lost, or you're forgetful, you're forgetting your own appointments and things, that's a really classic symptom of stress as well. The other thing we're really concerned about for family caregivers is constant caregiver stress can lead to their own health problems. And we know from watching this over the years that often the caregiver, the family caregiver, end up having more health problems than the person with dementia. because it's just exhausting and they don't have time to take care of their own health. For professional caregivers, we get a little bit more concerned about something we call compassion fatigue, where you've just cared and cared so much and been through so many things that you just reach a point where you are just completely out of compassion and caring. And that's something you really want to pay attention to. It might be time to talk to someone, to talk to a trusted supervisor, a friend, or even a counselor. Being in the medical field and the healthcare field is stressful in and of itself, but certainly we all know these past 2 years have been even more stressful. So pay attention to this in your body. It's so important that you're able to recognize these and take care of yourself. Because here's the reality. When you're a caregiver, a professional caregiver, a family caregiver, this is what your day is like all day long. You give and you give and you give and you give and you give, right? That is a typical day. Somebody always needs something and they're counting on you to meet that need, right? But it's important to remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't give from a place where you're empty or where you're dry. So one of the most important tips for you is to think about what are the things that keep you filled, what keeps your cup filled. And it is absolutely essential that you make time for those things, whatever they are. For some people, it's spending time with their children. They can't wait to get home at the end of the day and play on the trampoline or the swing set or go for a walk. For older people, it's visiting grandchildren. That really keeps them happy. Maybe it's your church activities, singing in the choir, or belonging to a social group at church or small group. Maybe it's spending time with your friends. Maybe it's exercise, and I cannot recommend that highly enough. One of the best ways to deal with stress is to make sure you're getting plenty of exercise. And I don't mean going and buying an expensive gym membership. A 30-minute walk around the neighborhood, around the block, a walk on a lot of the trails around. If you're in Tennessee, we've got tons of trails. So go find a trail out in the woods and walk around. Go walk around in the grass barefoot. And then hobbies. What are the things that you enjoy doing? Maybe it's sewing, maybe it's crossword puzzles, maybe it's some other activity. Make time in your week, at least a couple of times a week, to fit these things in, because these are the things that keep you grounded and keep you who you are and help keep your cup filled, so that when other people are needing and drawing out of you and you have to give, you've got somewhere to give from. Now, when we're stressed or overwhelmed or confused, we can always ask for help, right? We can always ask for help, but why don't we? How many times have you had a problem and you will not ask for help? You won't ask somebody, how do you do this? Or you won't go to a supervisor and say, I really don't understand this. Can you help me? Asking for help seems to be a really hard thing to do because we see it as a sign of weakness. Now, it's not. Certainly, if you don't know how to do a medical treatment on me, I would much rather you go ask and get help and make sure you understand it. But we see asking for help as a sign of weakness. We have this mindset that I should be able to handle this without asking anybody. I should be able to do this. Or we also think that they're going to think I don't know what I'm doing. If I go ask my supervisor, they've showed me this before, I still don't understand. They're going to think I don't want to do my job. I'm going to get somebody else to do it, or that I don't understand what I'm doing. It's admitting that I can't handle it. We don't ask for help, and especially I see this a lot more with female caregivers. If they're family caregivers, they'll say, I can do it, I can handle it, I've been doing this 50 years, I can do it now. You'll hear, as you're working with family caregivers, if they're married, you might hear them say, I made a vow in sickness and in health, I'm going to do this. And so they think it's admitting they can't handle it if they ask for help. But in a workplace, we think we're admitting we can't do our job if we ask for help. Maybe we think we'll get in trouble, we'll get written up. Hey, Cheryl, I've trained you on this particular thing 5 times. You just don't seem to be getting it. Maybe this isn't the right job for you. So we don't ask for help because we think we'll get in trouble, right? Or feel like we don't know what we're doing. But here's the thing. We want communities, assisted livings, nursing, skilled nursing facilities, nursing homes, we used to call them. We want them to create a culture of support. So what would happen in your community if we knew it was expected that you asked for help or asked for explanation when you didn't understand something? What if we treated that as a good thing instead of something that we're all afraid to do? Wouldn't that just change the culture of every workplace? So create a culture of support. If you have a coworker and every time she goes to bathe Mr. Jones, he's happy and jolly and doesn't seem to have a trouble, but when you go to do it, he fights and doesn't want to, go to her. Hey, what is your trick? What is it that you do? And it may be that she has him singing silly songs. Something as simple as that distracts him and she's able to get him. So ask if you see somebody doing something you want to know how to do, or you think they've got an idea that seems to be working, ask. Let's make it a culture of support where it's okay to ask. So create a culture where it is encouraged to ask for help, where it's encouraged to go to your supervisor, your director of nursing, your social work lead, your coworkers, where it's okay to ask for help, where I can learn from those people that are having successes. Make it okay. Hey, let's maybe have a roundtable session and you talk about, I had a great success with this idea. You know, I told Miss Jones her son was coming to visit, so it was time to get her shower so she'd be ready, and she went right in the bathroom. Well, maybe somebody else can use that tip. So maybe having times where you share how you can learn from others. And then also, a desire for knowledge is more important than being afraid of getting in trouble. We want staff to continue learning. We want employees to have all the skills and the best they can have, but they're discouraged from asking if they're afraid they're going to be reprimanded or written up. And always make sure that providing excellent care is the guiding force. That is the very number one top goal. And if we're going to provide excellent care, guess what? We have to continue learning. We have to learn new skills. We have to learn how to adapt and adjust as things change. So some of the ways that we can manage caregiver stress is developing realistic expectations. And we address that in another session, so I'll encourage you to go back and watch that one. Knowing your limits. Are there certain things that you just know you cannot do? Now, for me, I work with dementia and Alzheimer's disease all day long. I can deal with people sitting in my office crying, but I do not do blood. So for me, if I was a caregiver and I had to take care of somebody with a big wound, I can't do that. So I'm going to go to my supervisor and say, you know, I'm really good at these things over here, but that one I'm really not good at. Not sure I can do those. And see if you can work it out where you're using your very best skill set. But know your limits, because definitely if you're having to do a lot of things you're uncomfortable with, afraid of, just plain out don't like, that's definitely going to create some additional stress for you. Another thing that's really important is not making promises that you can't keep. And this really applies more to family caregivers, but I'll share this with you as a good example. A lot of family caregivers will tell their loved ones, I will never put you in a nursing home. Or they'll say, or the parent will say, promise me you'll never put me in a nursing home. Sometimes that's a promise you can't keep, because sometimes it gets to a point where they're just at that level of care. So a promise you can keep is a promise I will always provide you the very best possible care. Because guess what? Sometimes that means an assisted living, a memory care, or a skilled nursing facility. So I promise you, I will always provide you the very best care, whatever that looks like. In the workplace, if you cannot really take on every extra shift or every overtime shift, it's okay to acknowledge that. I can't promise that I can pick up every one of these overtime shifts. I've got kids at home too, and I can't, because you've got to take care of yourself. Remembering to ask for and accept help. If you're really having a tough day at work, go to a trusted coworker, supervisor, and let them know, hey, I'm kind of struggling today. Can I get some support? Or I'm really having a hard time with Mr. Jones. I don't know what's going on. Can I get your input? And then forgive yourself daily. Really forgive yourself daily. This is a tough job, and you're all certainly doing the very, very best that you can. So there are going to be bumps in the road. Don't go home and beat yourself up. Don't play it over and over in your head 100 times, because guess what? When you're at home and it's 9 o'clock at night, you can't do anything about it right then anyway. That is not the time to address the issue. So sometimes I encourage people to keep a journal by your bed, just a notebook, write down whatever it is you're worried about. Tell your brain, it's okay, I wrote it down. I'm not going to forget about it. I'll deal about it tomorrow. And then laugh daily. Laughter releases endorphins into the body, into the brain. Laughter is fantastic medicine. It's an absolute true statement. So find something to laugh about every day. Call up a friend that always makes you laugh. I like dad jokes. The goofier the better. Look up dad jokes. Watch a funny television show. But find a way to replace some of the daily stresses with laughing at some point during that day. Some other self-care techniques we're going to talk about, and then positive self-talk. If you started really listening to the things you say to yourself every day, there's so much negativity. Oh gosh, Cheryl, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you reacted that way. I can't believe you messed up so badly on that test. I can't believe you forgot that you have this appointment. We beat ourselves up a lot. So positive self-talk. Find those little successes throughout the day, even if it's only one. And it might be Wow, I made it through the day without getting really angry at my coworker that gets on my nerves. Great, that's a success. Celebrate that. Tell yourself, I gave my all today. I gave my very best today. You know, I did a really good job with Mr. Jones today, and sometimes he's really difficult. I'm really proud of myself. So replace some of that negativity with positive self-talk, no matter how small that may be. Some of the things you can do for self-care. We've talked about exercise. Vitally important that you exercise. And again, doesn't mean go into an expensive gym. Go for a walk, dance, find something that you enjoy and do it regularly. One of the best things you can do for good self-care because it just does so many good things for the body. Eating a healthy diet is important. Now, for brain health, we recommend a diet called the Mind Diet. You can look that up online, but making sure you're getting foods that are good for you. We're busy. We tend to live with drive-throughs and things we can get out of dispensing machines at the office, but get those fruits and vegetables in, whole grains, and healthy things to have your body running as efficiently as it possibly can. It's important that you leave work at work. I just mentioned on the previous slide that at 9 o'clock at night when you're laying around, there's nothing you can do about what happened at work today or what you've got to do tomorrow. So when you walk out the door of your workplace, mentally clock out. Even if you don't clock out anymore, just mentally clock out. Let it go. Tell yourself when you leave, you know, I've got some things lingering. Going to have to take care of that tomorrow because now I'm going home to my spouse, my children, my dog, whatever, and leave work at work. It's one of the biggest things we do is we take that home with us and stress out even when we're at home. We mentioned asking for and accepting help at work, but also at home. If you're feeling overwhelmed with your work-life balance, if you just can't keep up, maybe there's a friend that has said several times, hey, can I come get the kids Saturday so you can just have some alone time? Yes, absolutely. That would be great. Or if somebody offers to do some errands for you or just help you around the house, let that happen. I have one friend whose gift is serving, and one of our friends was overwhelmed, and she goes, I'm just going to come over and clean your house from top to bottom. And it was a beautiful gift. And so she went and did that. If you need help with that, just let somebody know, I need a little help. Talking to someone if you're stressed. Do you have a friend, a family member? Now, when you talk to someone, you want to make sure this is somebody who's going to be supportive, not somebody who's going to tell you, well, you're the one who chose to work there, or I don't know what you're so stressed out about. You should have my job. So you got to be careful when you choose who to talk to, but you may even feel the need to talk to a professional if you're feeling really overwhelmed and stressed out, especially over the last couple of years. One of the things we know really impacts our stress level and our health is getting enough sleep. That's one of the biggest areas that we as Americans fail. We fall asleep with a TV on or with a telephone in our hand and looking at a screen, and we're just not getting a good solid night's sleep. So I encourage you, take a look at your sleep habits. What do they look like? Do some reading about what it would take to help you get a better night's sleep, because it's one of the most important things for overall health. But research is also showing us that's one of the most important things for preventing Alzheimer's disease, getting enough sleep. And then learn some stress management techniques. So I'm going to teach you a couple of things that are very easy to apply to help you learn to relax. One of them is just counting and breathing. If you're sitting in an office and you look up and it's one of those tiles that has all the dots in it, just start counting the dots in the ceiling, counting the stripes on the carpet, on the floor, counting the number of pens on someone's desk. And as you're doing that, taking deep breaths, just counting anything that you can count while you're breathing. Saying song lyrics, you have to think about that. And the idea behind both of these is it's going to take your mind off of whatever it is that you're thinking about that's increasing that stress. We can often say or sing song lyrics, but it's hard to say them. And if you don't believe me, try to very quickly tell me what letter comes after W. And most of you are going to go W, X, Y, and Z, right? Because we can sing it. So try to think of one of your favorite songs. Can you say the song lyrics without singing it? That's getting your focus on putting something in order. Square breathing is something that works for a lot of people. And square breathing is a really simple technique. All you do is you take one of your fingers. You can do this in the air. You can do this on a desk or on a table. But as you're going across and making the first line of the square, you're going to take a deep inhale. It's almost like smelling flowers. You really want to get a good breath in. So you go and you hold it for a few seconds. And then as you go down, you're going to blow out birthday candles. And then you make the rest of the square. So that's another inhale. And then another exhale. Now, if you're like most people, you're probably going to feel a little lightheaded because we tend to do very shallow breathing, especially when we're stressed. We only breathe into this part of our lungs, but our lungs really need to be filled. So take that big, deep breath and make sure your abdomen is expanding when you're taking a deep breath. Some people find that meditation is helpful. Some people don't. But if that's something you think might be helpful, give it a try. A lot of people really say it's very, very beneficial. One of the biggest things to do if you're in the midst of a very stressful situation and it is safe to do so is walk away. Just let somebody know, I just need to step away for a minute. I need to clear my head, and then find somewhere. If it's a bathroom and you have to lock yourself in, go in there. Do some of these breathing exercises. Try to take your mind off of it and settle your mind so that when you're going back to deal with whatever that stressor is, your mind is a little more clear. This is another stress management technique. This is kind of a mindfulness technique. So again, you're going to be taking those deep breaths, and as you're doing that, you name 5 things that you can see. And that might be a table, a towel, a cushion, a pen. And then you continue breathing, and you're going to name 4 things that you can feel. I feel my feet on the floor, my back against the chair, the sun is on my face, the wind is blowing. 3 things that you can hear right now. Right now in this room, I think I'm hearing an air conditioner. I'm hearing the sound of my voice. So pay attention to those things. 2 things that you can smell. Depending on where you are, that might be a little bit harder. If you're outside, you might be able to smell flowers and things like that. If you're in a home and someone's cooking, you might be able to smell that. And then 1 good thing about yourself. And again, that's all about that positive self-talk. So this is a technique called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can do this several times a day, anytime you just need to stress or de-stress. And again, it's about taking the focus off of the stress you're experiencing, what it is that's causing you to feel stressed, because you're totally focusing on your breathing and on doing this activity. So some tips for a good day at work, because ideally it'd be great to go to work and not experience stress, right? So start with those realistic expectations, not going in thinking everything is going to go perfectly all day. Also think about understanding it from the person's perspective, and that's empathy. What would it be like for you to start losing your memory? What would it be like for you if you knew it was coming, that you weren't going to recognize your family anymore, or that you weren't going to be able to take care of yourself? Alzheimer's disease only moves in one direction. We don't get better from that. So it's going to continue to get worse. So think about that, and also think about the family, and remember to be empathetic with them. Sometimes a family is going to come in and yell at you, and it probably has absolutely nothing to do with you. But remember, they're afraid, they're overwhelmed, they're angry. So really, really practice that skill of empathy. One thing that's very helpful too is learning more about that resident, their life story, because we often just see them as an Alzheimer's or dementia patient, and we forget that he was head of this huge, ginormous company in downtown Nashville. Or I actually had a lady one time who had been in the CIA. Can you imagine? So knowing that about her, I had things I could ask her about. Sometimes I would ask her funny questions like, did you ever have to shoot anybody? And she would say, classified. So she remembered that she couldn't give me information, but I found a way to connect with her. So it's really important to de-stress if you connect with your residents. It's also a great way to distract them if they start getting upset. If you've got somebody that can talk about baseball all day long, start talking about baseball. That's a great distraction technique. If it's a woman that has 5 children and 20 grandchildren, talk about her children and grandchildren. It's a great distraction. But you can't use that unless you know their life story. So learn about your resident. And then also talking with other more experienced caregivers. If you're new to caregiving and there's somebody that's been there 20 years, say, hey, what are the best tips you would share with me? What would you tell me is the hardest part of your job? Or what's the best part? And just learn from them. That's a great thing to do. You also can really make it a less stressful day if you learn to operate within the patient's preferences. Some people prefer to shower in the morning. Some people prefer to take a bath at night. If you operate within those preferences of the residents, that's going to go a lot better for you. And I know it can be hard sometimes because you've got your checklist, you've got things you've got to go through. But if you're trying to force a nighttime bather to shower in the morning because that's what your schedule says, you're going to create a difficult situation that really could have been avoided had you just operated within their preferences. And that goes for food preferences as well. Times that we're going to eat. Breakfast in a lot of these communities is like 7 o'clock in the morning. I never eat breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. So when it's me, It's going to be difficult because they're going to call my family and say, she won't eat. Well, my son's going to say, wait till 10, right? And then recognize that sometimes what we call challenging behaviors with people with dementia or Alzheimer's is really caused by us. Now, that's not to place blame. It's just to say, get educated about what approaches work and what approaches don't work. We have a tendency to try to drag the person with Alzheimer's back into where we need them to be and how we want them to operate. But what we really need to do is step over into their world and into their operating system and what still works for them. So keep in mind that sometimes our approach is what's creating that difficult situation. And one way to address that is to get more education. So one thing you can do is go to our Caregiver Academy. I think I've got a slide in here about that, but on the Alzheimer's Tennessee website, which is www.alz and then the word Tennessee.org, go to Caregiver Academy. There are 3 to 5 minute videos on there where you can go and learn a lot of information about working with people with dementia, and it's there for you, for caregivers to go and learn. So please do go visit that. Focus also on where you have the most impact. We get a lot of stress because we're trying to deal with something in the past. It's over and we can't change it, but we just ruminate and think about it and worry, and that creates a lot of stress because you can't go back and change it. We also can't control the future, but we spend a lot of time worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe that exam I'm taking tomorrow, or I'm meeting with my boss tomorrow. What if it's bad? What if I'm in trouble? But you can't control that. We don't know what's going to happen anyway, but we spend a lot of time worrying about it. So where can you spend the majority of your time? Where do you have an impact? And that's right here, right now. So really, if you can, again, be mindful, today I'm going to do this because right here, right now is where I can make the biggest difference. And there's the Caregiver Academy. So that, again, is a place that's housed on our website. You can go. You can also share this with families. If they're asking a lot of questions, you can just say, hey, have you ever heard of Alzheimer's Tennessee's Caregiver Academy? Here, let me give you the website, and direct them over to this where they can go and get a lot of education as well. Alzheimer's Tennessee has offices throughout the state, so if you want more information, we've got a lot of brochures, a lot of flyers, a lot of webinars. I encourage you to hop on our website and explore. And if you have questions that you'd like to talk to one of us about, please do reach out. We're always happy to talk to professional caregivers and family caregivers about any questions you might have.